This video is a demonstration of how to create a flyer using Photoshop. It uses an example flyer and you basically mimic the flyer. And the way that I'm going to do this particular video is simply break it down into different pieces. The files you see here are the files that are needed to create the flyer. You have a couple of photos, you have the logo. This file is an example, or it is the example of what the flyer will look like once you complete it in Photoshop. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, but you're going to use it as your guide. Let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit. Alrighty, so this is what the flyer will look like once it's complete. And so again, if you look at the files, you'll notice that all the graphics you see are shown here. All the JPEGs, we'll just bring those into our flyer. Alright, since we're going to mimic this particular flyer, I like to use it as a guide. So we can start off with the first step can simply be creating these blocks of color that you see along the top, and it's fairly simple. What I like to do first is make a new layer. You can, in the layers panel, there's a button. This is the new layers button. I think it's the fastest way, or one of the fastest ways to make a new layer. You click that, you have a new blank layer. These squares represent a transparent, well, it represents transparency, so there's nothing on this layer. It may not mean much right now, but within the options for the layers panel, you really can't see it out. It's off screen right now, but if you click the button I just clicked, I'll click it again, you will see an option for panel options. And let's see, I just move this window over a bit. Alright, so click that icon. Here's the option called panel options. The layers panel options shows up. There's a heading of thumbnail size. I'm going to leave it at the size that it is, but where it says thumbnail contents, I'm going to change that to layer bounds. And so whenever there's something on a layer, it will show that as a thumbnail entirely and not the entire document. If you're not familiar with that, it'll make sense as we go along. Alright, so again, we made a new layer. These blocks of color can be created using the rectangular marquee tool. If you don't already have it selected, just click on this particular tool, hold down left mouse button until the menu pops up, choose rectangular marquee tool, and now we simply click and drag. So, had some technical difficulties, hopefully you didn't notice. Alright, so let's go ahead and fix this. We use the rectangular marquee tool and try to be very precise. And now we have our selection. The color is I call it green, some shade of green. We want to bring up the color picker, so we simply choose a foreground color by left clicking on it. Here's the color picker, and you'll notice that when I move away from the color picker dialog box, the eyedropper shows up. When I click, it selects the color, and now I can click OK. You'll see the foreground color is now that green color. And the paint bucket tool is useful here. It shares the same location as the gradient tool, so you left click and hold, and you'll have the option to select paint bucket tool. With the paint bucket selected, you simply left click within our selection. That's going to fill that area. You'll see on layer 1 the entire thing is green. If we hide the background layer, again we're going to use the background layer, we're going to use it as a guide. So now we see we have one green block showing there. Alright, so we can do one or two things. We can make a new layer and put each color on a different layer, or we can simply use the same layer for all three colors. So I want to keep it simple. I'm simply going to make a new layer. Select the rectangular marquee tool, and when I select the rectangular marquee tool, now my cursor looks different. I'm going to simply click and drag over to the right, try to line this up a bit. It's not precise, but I can use the arrow keys on the keyboard, so I'm going to hit the right arrow key to line it up a little bit better. Alright, that's good enough. And do the same step again. Choose the foreground color. The dialog box pops up. Color picker shows up. Click OK. You'll see where it says new. Before clicking OK, you'll see where it says new color. That's the color that's going to become my foreground color. Choose the paint bucket tool. Alright, click within our selection. Alright, layer 2 is now maroon, and make a new layer for this last box. I'm going to select the rectangle marquee tool again. Alright, click and drag over to the right. It's not precise, so I'm going to hit the left arrow key twice. And once again, the foreground color, which is the top color here, brings up the color picker. Eyedropper tool shows up when I mouse over the sky blue color. It's going to become my new color. Click OK. The foreground color is now that blue color. We use the paint bucket tool. Alright, at this point we have the 3 blocks of color. I'm going to hide the background layer, and this is what we have so far.